The human ship glided quietly through the shimmering atmosphere of the alien planet. Its surface sparkled like a sea of tiny crystals, reflecting the alien sun in hundreds of colors. The palace that stretched across the horizon looked like a dream. Towers rose high above the ground, bending light in ways that made the air seem alive. Bridges connected floating platforms, and every wall seemed to hum with energy. It was beautiful, but also intimidating. Marcus, the human envoy from Earth, took a deep breath as the ship docked at the palace's main landing bay. He had traveled far from his home, representing humanity in what could be one of the most important diplomatic missions in history. Earth had little knowledge of this planet, and even less about its rulers. But he knew one thing: humans had a way of earning trust even in the most unusual situations. When the landing doors opened, Marcus stepped out onto a platform that overlooked the city below. He adjusted his suit, a standard diplomatic uniform from Earth, and followed the palace guides into the enormous main hall. The air smelled faintly of energy and flowers, real and artificial mixed together in a scent he could not identify. Strange lights moved along the walls, forming patterns that seemed alive. The hall was empty for now, but he could hear the soft murmur of voices from behind large doors. The human guides led Marcus to the throne room. It was even grander than the hall. At its center was a large space where ceremonies were held. At the far end, high on a platform, sat the queen. She was tall, elegant, and unlike anything Marcus had ever seen. Her skin shimmered like liquid metal, and her eyes glowed softly. Around her, advisors and nobles whispered quietly, eyes darting between Marcus and the queen. Marcus bowed politely, careful not to appear too stiff or too casual. He had been trained for diplomacy, but nothing could fully prepare him for this moment. "Welcome, human," said a calm, melodic voice. It carried across the room with authority. The queen's eyes rested on Marcus, studying him. He could feel her intelligence, sharp and precise, like a laser cutting through the air. He straightened his posture and returned her gaze, respectful but confident. "Thank you, Your Majesty," Marcus replied. "I come in friendship from Earth." Whispers spread through the court. Humans were rare here. Most alien races had only heard of Earth through distant reports, rumors of a strong and curious species. Marcus had been trained to handle this kind of attention, but he felt it anyway, a mixture of pride and nervousness. The ceremony began, with nobles presenting gifts, bowing, and reciting greetings in a language Marcus could barely understand. Then from the shadows, a small figure emerged. It was the queen's child. Unlike the adults, the child was smaller, delicate, and unafraid to move in ways that were almost playful. Their skin shimmered like the queen's, but softer. Their eyes, larger and rounder, glimmered with curiosity. Marcus noticed the child pause in the middle of the hall. They looked directly at him, then suddenly, without warning, ran across the room. The nobles gasped. The advisors stiffened. The queen's eyes widened. Everyone watched as the child came straight toward Marcus, their tiny hands reaching out. Before anyone could stop it, the child hid behind Marcus, pressing close to his legs. The hall fell silent. Marcus froze for a moment, surprised, then gently knelt down so he could speak softly to the child. "It's okay," he said. "You don't need to be afraid." His voice was calm, low, and kind. The child peeked out from behind him, eyes wide but trusting. The queen's advisors whispered urgently. "This is unprecedented," one of them said. "The child has never shown interest in an outsider." The queen remained seated, her eyes fixed on the human. She was quiet, observing, trying to understand why her child had chosen to hide behind Marcus. It was strange, unexpected, and yet she felt a strange curiosity, a pull she could not explain. Marcus, sensing the tension, did not panic. Instead, he moved slowly, keeping his hands visible so the child would not feel threatened. "We can be friends," he said softly. "I won't hurt you." The child hesitated, then cautiously reached out and touched his hand. The gesture was small, but it carried trust. The queen's eyes flickered, surprised at the bond forming in front of her. A murmur ran through the hall. Nobles exchanged glances. Guards straightened, unsure how to react. The queen's child had never done this before. To trust a human so quickly, it was extraordinary. Marcus remained calm, letting the child stay close. He whispered small words, offering reassurance, and even mimicked a few gentle gestures the child made. The child responded with small movements, almost like a game. The queen, watching silently, felt a strange warmth in her chest. Humans were said to be unpredictable, often reckless or aggressive, and yet here was one standing calmly, protecting her child with no fear, no demand, only kindness. It was a quality she had not expected from an outsider. "Mother," the child said finally, their voice small but clear. "I like him." The queen's heart skipped a beat. The child's words were unexpected yet honest. She leaned forward slightly, her gaze fixed on Marcus. The courtiers gasped. It was rare for the child to speak so openly in front of the entire court. Marcus smiled softly, careful not to make sudden movements. "Thank you," he said gently. "I'm honored." Some nobles shook their heads in disbelief. Others looked impressed. The child's trust in a human was stirring emotions no one had anticipated. Marcus stayed kneeling, giving the child space while remaining a safe presence. Slowly, the child stepped further out from behind him, testing the boundaries. "Your Majesty," Marcus said respectfully, standing carefully, "I promise to respect your child and your kingdom. I only wish to understand and help." The queen's voice was quiet but clear, reaching every corner of the hall. "We will see," she said. Her tone was measured, thoughtful, but carried an edge of amusement. The child glanced up at her, then back at Marcus, as if silently asking for permission. The queen did not intervene, only watched, curious to see what would happen next. The rest of the ceremony continued, but the atmosphere had changed. Whispers no longer carried tones of suspicion, they carried awe. A human had earned the trust of the queen's child in a way no one had imagined possible. Marcus walked carefully, allowing the child to move beside him, protecting them subtly from the curious eyes and the occasional approaching courtier. After the ceremony, Marcus was led to a smaller chamber where he could speak with the queen privately. The child remained close, watching with bright, intelligent eyes. The queen regarded Marcus with renewed interest. "Your actions today were unusual," she said. "Most visitors would have panicked or reacted poorly. You remained calm." Marcus bowed slightly. "I have learned that fear does not help, Your Majesty. Trust must be earned with patience, not force." The queen nodded slowly. There was wisdom in his words, and more than that, she could not deny that the bond between him and her child was real. It was small, perhaps insignificant in the grand scheme of the palace, but it was also remarkable. As the sun began to set outside the palace, casting strange colors across the hall, Marcus sat quietly with the child nearby. For the first time in the palace's long history, the human and the alien child had found a connection, unspoken but clear. The court watched in silence, stunned, unsure of what this meant for the future. That evening, as Marcus prepared for dinner with the queen, the child reached for his hand and smiled. It was a simple gesture, but it said more than words ever could. Marcus smiled back, realizing that he had taken the first step into a story far larger than any diplomatic mission. A story that might change the palace, the planet, and perhaps the galaxy. And deep in her throne, the queen watched, a mixture of curiosity and admiration stirring in her heart. She knew in that moment that this human was unlike any other visitor her kingdom had ever seen, and that her child, in choosing to hide behind him, had made a decision that would shock everyone in the palace and perhaps alter the course of their history. The next morning, the palace was buzzing with whispers. Courtiers hurried along crystal walkways, their robes brushing against the smooth surfaces. The air was alive with excitement and unease. Every corner seemed to carry a question. Why had the queen's child hidden behind the human? And more importantly, what did it mean for the future of the kingdom? Marcus moved carefully through the palace, escorted by 2 guides. He had spent the night in a guest chamber, and now he was to meet the queen again. But this time it was not a formal ceremony. The queen wanted to observe him quietly and see how he interacted with her child in the palace's daily life. The child, named Leora, was waiting in a bright room filled with floating orbs of light. Leora's eyes sparkled as Marcus entered. Without hesitation, she ran to him and took his hand. Marcus knelt down, letting her climb onto a low bench beside him. "You're not afraid today," Marcus said with a soft smile. "I like you," Leora replied simply. Her voice carried a musical tone that Marcus found both charming and calming. Just then, a court advisor entered, bowing quickly. "Your Majesty requests your presence in the council chamber," he said. Leora wrinkled her small forehead. "Do I have to go?" she asked. Marcus shook his head gently. No, you can stay here. I will be back soon. Leora hesitated, but finally nodded. She watched Marcus leave with the palace guides, her small hands fidgeting with the edge of her robe. Even though she was only a child, her mind seemed sharper than many adults in the palace. Marcus could sense that she noticed everything. The whispers of the staff, the movement of shadows, the way the light shifted across the walls. The council chamber was unlike any human building Marcus had seen. It was circular, with transparent walls that allowed a view of the city below. The advisors sat in high-backed chairs, their faces tense. At the center, the queen watched Marcus closely, her expression unreadable. "Human," the queen began, her voice calm but firm. "Yesterday your actions surprised everyone. The child chose you. Tell me, why did you remain calm?" Marcus took a deep breath. "Your Majesty, in every society I have studied, fear makes the situation worse. The child needed protection, not commands. Calmness builds trust." The queen leaned back, considering his words. "Trust is a rare commodity in this palace," she said, "especially with outsiders. And yet Leora ran to you. You must understand that your presence has caused unrest among the council." "I understand," Marcus replied, "but I believe trust once earned can change hearts." The queen's eyes narrowed slightly. "You speak boldly for a human. Most would not survive a week in the palace without offending someone." Marcus smiled faintly. "I have learned to listen first, act carefully, and always respect others." The queen studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "Very well. Observe the child. Let us see if this bond is real or fleeting." Back in the children's room, Leora was exploring small holographic puzzles, her movements quick and precise. When Marcus returned, she looked up and smiled. "I missed you," she said, running to hide behind him again. Marcus chuckled softly. "I missed you too." Leora's sudden trust in him puzzled many palace staff who watched from a distance. Some whispered that humans must possess a special kind of influence. Others worried. Could the humans' bond with the queen's child be dangerous? Could it be used to manipulate the child and through them the queen? But Marcus was not thinking of politics. He focused on the child in front of him. Leora had a keen mind and an unusual sense of curiosity. She asked questions about Earth, about human habits, and about Marcus himself. He answered patiently, showing her simple drawings of Earth cities, stars, and animals. She listened intently, her eyes wide with wonder. "You have animals?" Leora asked. "Many," Marcus said. "Some are small, some are large. They live with humans and help in different ways." Leora's gaze drifted to the floating orbs in the room. "Like these?" "Not exactly," Marcus said. "They are alive in a different way. They breathe, eat, and sometimes play. Like you in a way." Leora laughed softly, a sound that reminded Marcus of music. Meanwhile, the palace council was not idle. The advisors had convened a private session to discuss the human. "This bond cannot be ignored," said one advisor, his voice tense. "Humans are unpredictable. If the child continues to trust him, it may weaken the queen's authority." Another advisor frowned. "Or it may strengthen it. Imagine if the human proves helpful. If he earns the queen's respect, he may become an ally. That could benefit us." The debate continued in hushed tones. Opinions were divided. But one thing was clear. The human's calm and gentle demeanor had left an impression, one that no one could deny. Back in the children's room, Marcus noticed something unusual. Leora's eyes sometimes glowed faintly when she concentrated. He asked gently, "Are you thinking very hard?" Leora nodded. "I am trying to understand you. Humans are strange, but I like strange." Marcus smiled. "I like that you are curious. Curiosity is how we learn." The bond between human and child grew stronger with each passing hour. Leora began to follow Marcus around the palace, often hiding behind him when strangers approached. Marcus protected her subtly, guiding her through corridors and rooms with care. He never scolded her or forced her to stay close. Instead, he let trust grow naturally. The queen observed all of this silently. She noticed how Leora's laughter returned, how the child's steps became lighter, and how the palace staff could not understand why a human could inspire such confidence in her child. Marcus's actions were simple, but the effect was profound. Later that day, a minor incident occurred. One of the palace servants accidentally spilled a tray of floating food near Leora. The child froze, unsure how to react. Marcus quickly stepped forward, shielding her with his body. "It's okay," he said calmly. "It was an accident. No one is hurt." Leora peeked from behind him, then smiled. She understood that Marcus would protect her without anger or punishment. The queen watched from a distance, a faint smile forming. Her child had always been cautious, even fearful of mistakes. And yet here was a human, demonstrating patience and understanding. It was a quality that most palace members lacked, and it fascinated her. As evening approached, the palace prepared for a small gathering. The queen had invited Marcus to join, and Leora insisted on staying close. Courtiers whispered as he entered the room, some with admiration, others with skepticism. But Marcus remained calm, attentive to the child's needs and respectful to all present. During the gathering, a minor crisis arose. A hovering platform malfunctioned, causing a loud noise and slight shaking. Many adults panicked, but Marcus kept a steady hand on Leora, guiding her to a safe corner. He spoke softly. "Stay calm. We are safe." The child's fear melted away, replaced by trust. The queen, observing, could not hide her growing respect. This human had faced chaos with composure, protected her child without question, and earned loyalty that palace nobles could not understand. She realized that humans, though physically weaker, possessed a unique strength of mind and heart. Later, when the gathering ended, Leora climbed onto a soft bench beside Marcus. "I like you," she said again. "I trust you." Marcus smiled and ruffled her hair gently. "I am glad. And I trust you too. Always." The queen entered the room silently. Leora ran to her mother, but instead of stepping away from Marcus, she stayed close. The queen knelt, her gaze calm but thoughtful. "You have a gift," she said to Marcus. "Not many can earn the trust of a child in one day. You have done something remarkable." Marcus bowed politely. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I only did what I thought was right." The queen smiled faintly. "Perhaps there is more to humans than we have been told." As the sun set outside, casting long shadows across the palace, Marcus sat quietly with Leora nearby. The palace, once full of whispers and tension, now watched silently, unsure what to make of the bond between a human and the queen's child. But one thing was clear. A connection had been formed, one that might change the palace, the kingdom, and even the future of human-alien relations. And deep in her throne, the queen pondered. This human was calm, clever, and kind. He had earned her child's trust, a feat no one else had managed. Could humans be more than outsiders? Could they perhaps be allies, friends, even protectors? The questions filled her mind, and for the first time she felt that the future of her kingdom might hold surprises she had never imagined. The palace felt different the next morning. The corridors were quieter than usual, but the tension in the air was stronger. Courtiers whispered behind closed doors, eyes darting toward Marcus and the queen's child, Leora. Something had changed. The child's unusual trust in a human had shifted the balance of attention and curiosity in the palace. Some admired it, others worried. Marcus walked through the halls with Leora at his side. She held his hand loosely, her small fingers intertwined with his. The child's curiosity seemed boundless, and Marcus encouraged it gently. They stopped before a large balcony overlooking the city, where shimmering towers reflected the sunlight like a sea of stars. "Your city is very beautiful," Leora said softly. "I have never seen anything like it," Marcus smiled. "Thank you. And your palace is amazing too. I have never seen towers that float like that." Leora laughed, a clear musical sound. "Do humans have floating towers?" "Not yet," Marcus said. "But we try to build things that reach the sky like your towers. Maybe one day we can build towers that float too." Their conversation was simple, yet it revealed a bond forming quickly. Leora was clever and observant, and Marcus admired her intelligence. But as they explored, Marcus noticed something unusual. Guards moved cautiously in the distance, whispering to one another. Some advisors appeared to be watching them from behind doors. He realized that not everyone in the palace trusted him, despite the child's clear preference. Later that day, the palace council convened secretly. The advisors were uneasy. "The human's influence over Leora cannot be ignored," one said. "If the child continues to trust him, we risk destabilizing the queen's authority." Another advisor, younger but shrewd, shook his head. "Or we gain an advantage. The human is intelligent, calm, and fearless in ways few here are. He may be the ally we never expected." The debate continued, tension thickening the air. The human had become a topic of concern and fascination simultaneously. Marcus, unaware of the council's discussions, continued his day with the child, unaware that he was slowly changing perceptions in the palace. Back in the child's playroom, Marcus introduced Leora to simple games of strategy. Holographic puzzles floated in the air, shifting shapes and colors that challenged the mind. Leora's eyes glowed with focus as she moved pieces carefully, her small hands precise. Marcus watched with admiration. "You are very clever," Marcus said. "You think very quickly," Leora beamed. "I like to learn. I like to understand things," Marcus nodded. "That is good. Understanding makes you stronger." As the day passed, a minor incident occurred that revealed the growing bond between human and child. One of the palace servants accidentally tipped a tray of floating food near Leora. She froze, unsure how to react. Marcus quickly moved to shield her, placing himself between the child and the falling objects. "It's okay," he said calmly. "No one is hurt." Leora peeked from behind him, then smiled. "You protect me," she said. Marcus nodded. "Always. I will protect you if you let me." The small act impressed palace staff watching from a distance. Many had never seen a human act with such care and patience. The child's trust was growing visibly, and even the queen began to notice subtle changes in her child's confidence. That evening, a palace alert was sounded. A floating platform in one of the outer courtyards malfunctioned, threatening to fall. Many humans might have panicked. Many aliens did. But Marcus reacted quickly. He guided Leora to safety, keeping her calm with his words and steady presence. The platform settled without incident, but the event revealed the human's quick thinking under pressure. The queen, observing from her chambers, felt a mixture of pride and curiosity. "This human," she whispered to herself. "He does not fear. He protects, he adapts. There is more to him than I expected." Over the next few days, Marcus continued to spend time with Leora. He explored hidden passages, taught her simple earth songs, and showed her drawings of strange creatures. Leora's curiosity blossomed. She began asking questions not just about humans, but about the universe beyond their planet. "Do humans go to other planets?" she asked one afternoon. "Yes," Marcus said. "Some humans travel far into space. We are explorers like your people, but we are smaller and weaker, so we use our minds to solve problems." Leora's eyes widened. "We use our minds too," she said. "Maybe humans and aliens are not so different." Marcus smiled. "Perhaps not. But we can learn from each other." Meanwhile, palace politics simmered quietly. Rival factions saw the child's trust in Marcus as a potential threat. They began plotting subtle maneuvers, attempting to manipulate situations to test the human's loyalty and skill. Guards were subtly instructed to watch him closely. Advisors whispered warnings, and small obstacles appeared in the child's routine. Marcus noticed the small tests. He responded calmly with strategy and care, never angered or impatient. When a servant tried to redirect Leora's path away from him, he simply guided her gently, keeping her safe without confrontation. When an advisor questioned his presence, he answered politely, showing respect while maintaining his position. The queen observed it all. She saw how the human handled the challenges quietly, without force. His patience, intelligence, and gentle protection of her child impressed her. More than that, she began to realize that humans had qualities her people often overlooked: empathy, courage, and adaptability. One afternoon, a minor security alert brought everything to a head. A small group of rogue courtiers attempted to approach Leora during a public stroll in the palace gardens. Marcus, noticing their approach, moved quickly to place himself between them and the child. His presence alone made the courtiers hesitate. He spoke softly but firmly. "You will not harm her." The courtiers, surprised by his confidence, backed away. Leora looked up at Marcus, trust shining in her eyes. "You are brave," she said. Marcus knelt to her level. "We all have to be brave sometimes. You trusted me, and I will always be brave for you." The queen, watching from a balcony above, felt a deep respect for Marcus. He had not only protected her child, but he had also handled the palace's subtle threats with calm and intelligence. She realized that humans might hold a unique strength, one that was not physical but powerful in its own way. By evening, the palace had settled into a quiet hum. Marcus and Leora returned to the child's room, exhausted but content. The child curled up beside him, leaning gently against his arm. "I feel safe with you," Leora said quietly. "And I feel honored to protect you," Marcus replied. The queen watched silently from her chambers, her mind full of questions. This human had earned her child's trust, faced challenges without fear, and handled palace politics with grace. Could humans truly be allies, perhaps even friends, to her kingdom? Could Marcus's presence change not just Leora's life, but the future of the palace itself? As the night settled over the shimmering towers, Marcus reflected on the day. He had come to the palace as a diplomat, expecting negotiation and observation. Instead, he had found something unexpected: a bond of trust with a child, respect from a queen, and the beginnings of a new understanding between two very different species. And Leora, the queen's child, had discovered something too. Humans were not just strange outsiders. They could be gentle, clever, and brave. They could be friends. The palace, once filled with whispers of doubt and caution, now held a quiet sense of anticipation. Everyone sensed that something was changing, and in the center of it all, a small child and a human sat together, a symbol of trust, courage, and the possibilities of a new future. The palace had grown unusually quiet that morning. Courtiers whispered cautiously in corridors, and even the guards seemed tense. The events of the past days, the child's trust in the human Marcus, had begun to ripple through the palace in unexpected ways. Some viewed it as a sign of hope, others as a potential threat, but no one could deny that Marcus had changed the dynamics of the palace simply by earning Leora's trust. Marcus walked with Leora along a long hallway, lined with floating panels that displayed shifting lights and images of the palace gardens. The child's small hand rested in his, swinging gently as they moved. Leora's curiosity remained insatiable. She pointed at an image of a hovering flower, glowing in soft pink and blue. "What is that?" she asked. "That is a type of plant that floats using the planet's natural energy," Marcus explained. "It is very delicate and it needs careful attention to survive." Leora's eyes widened. "It is beautiful." "Do humans have plants like this?" "Not exactly," Marcus said with a smile. "We have plants that grow on the ground, but some can float if we use technology. Maybe one day humans will grow floating plants too." As they continued, Marcus noticed movement in the shadows. A group of palace guards watched them closely, whispering to one another. Marcus understood at once some factions were uneasy. They still saw him as an outsider and worried about his influence over Leora. But Marcus remained calm. He had learned that fear or aggression only made situations worse. He focused on protecting the child and keeping her safe. That afternoon, the queen called a council meeting in the central chamber. Marcus and Leora were invited to observe. It was unusual for a child to attend, but the queen wanted to see how the bond between human and child would withstand scrutiny. The chamber was circular, its transparent walls revealing the city below. Advisors sat in high-backed chairs, their expressions serious. Marcus knelt slightly to remain at Leora's level as they entered, letting her feel safe. Leora clung lightly to his hand, looking around with wide eyes. "Human," the queen began, her voice steady. "You have gained the trust of my child. Now you will be observed closely. We must see if this bond is strong or fleeting." Marcus bowed respectfully. "I understand, Your Majesty. I will act with care." The council began discussing palace matters, but soon the conversation shifted toward Marcus. Some advisors argued that his presence could influence the child in dangerous ways. Others suggested that his intelligence and calm demeanor might actually benefit the queen and her kingdom. A senior advisor leaned forward, his voice low but sharp. "The child trusts him. This could be used to manipulate the queen. Humans are unpredictable. We cannot know their intentions." Another advisor, younger and more optimistic, shook his head. "Or perhaps he could be the ally we need. Observe how he remains calm under pressure. He protects the child without force. That is rare, even among our own species." The queen listened silently, weighing each word carefully. She understood the risk, but she also saw something remarkable. Marcus had earned her child's trust not through authority or force, but through patience, empathy, and cleverness. This human had qualities few in the palace possessed. Later, Marcus returned to Leora's playroom. The child had already set up a small holographic puzzle, her fingers moving quickly as she arranged glowing shapes. "You are very clever," Marcus said. "I like to see how you think," Leora smiled. "I like to learn. I like to understand everything." Marcus nodded. "That is a good skill. Understanding makes you stronger." Suddenly, a minor alarm sounded in the palace. A floating platform in the outer courtyard was malfunctioning, creating a small disturbance. Many adults panicked, unsure how to respond. Marcus remained calm. He guided Leora to a safe corner and spoke softly. "Stay calm. Everything will be fine." Leora pressed close to him, her trust evident. The platform stabilized without incident. But Marcus' quick thinking had demonstrated something important. Humans could adapt to unusual situations and act decisively without fear. Word of the incident spread quickly. Courtiers whispered in awe of Marcus's composure. The queen observed quietly, a faint smile forming. She realized that humans might have a type of strength her own people often overlooked, a combination of intelligence, patience, and courage that could not be ignored. That evening, a minor crisis tested Marcus further. During a public stroll in the palace gardens, Leora wandered close to a group of roaming court officials. They moved with authority, but Marcus noticed their intent. Subtle tests, likely meant to gauge his reaction. He acted quickly but without panic. "Leora, stay close," Marcus whispered. He gently guided her behind him, keeping a calm presence that reassured the child. The officials hesitated, realizing that the human was not easily intimidated. Marcus's quiet confidence prevented any confrontation. Leora looked up at him. "You are brave," she said softly. Marcus knelt to her level. "We all have to be brave sometimes. I will always be brave for you." The queen, observing from a balcony above, could not hide her growing respect. Marcus had not only protected her child, but he had handled subtle palace politics with skill. She began to see the potential of humans in a new light. Perhaps they were not just outsiders. They could be allies, friends, even protectors. Over the next few days, the palace continued to test Marcus in small ways. Some courtiers tried to challenge him with questions or tasks meant to confuse or unsettle him. Others set minor obstacles for Leora, hoping to see how Marcus would react. Each time, Marcus responded with calm intelligence. He guided Leora safely, answered questions politely, and avoided conflict. His patience and courage impressed not only the child but also many of the palace observers. One afternoon, Leora climbed onto Marcus's shoulder to watch the city from a high balcony. "Humans are very different," she said. "But maybe we are not so different after all." Marcus smiled. "We all have things to learn from each other. You are very clever and you think quickly. That is something humans admire." Leora laughed softly. "Then maybe we can be friends." Marcus nodded. "I would like that very much." Meanwhile, the queen called a private session with her advisors. "This human has proven himself remarkable," she said. "He has earned my child's trust and shown intelligence and courage in ways few of our people can. We must consider how this affects the palace and our alliances." The advisors debated quietly, some fearful of human influence, others intrigued by his potential. One said, "If he is loyal, he could be a great ally. If not, he could cause chaos." The queen considered this. Loyalty was not given lightly, but Marcus had already shown it through actions, not words. He had proven himself in ways few visitors could. She realized that the future might depend on understanding humans, rather than fearing them. That evening, Marcus and Leora returned to the child's room. The palace outside was calm, but the undercurrents of intrigue remained. Leora curled up beside him, her small hand resting on his arm. "I feel safe with you," she said quietly. Marcus smiled. "And I am honored to protect you." The queen watched silently from her chambers, pondering the future. This human had earned her child's trust, handled challenges calmly, and navigated the palace's subtle intrigues with intelligence. Could humans truly be allies? Could Marcus's presence change not just Leora's life, but the future of the palace itself? As night fell over the shimmering towers, Marcus reflected on the day. He had come to the palace expecting diplomacy and negotiation. Instead, he had found a bond of trust with a child, respect from a queen, and the beginnings of a new understanding between two very different species. And Leora, the queen's child, had discovered something too. Humans were not just strange outsiders. They could be gentle, clever, and brave. They could be friends. The palace, once filled with whispers of doubt and caution, now held a quiet sense of anticipation. Everyone sensed that something was changing, and in the center of it all, a small child and a human sat together, a symbol of trust, courage, and the possibilities of a new future. The palace was alive with anticipation that morning. Word had spread quickly. The human Marcus had not only earned the trust of the queen's child Leora, but had also proven himself in ways that impressed even the most skeptical courtiers. The queen had decided to host a public ceremony, a gathering where the alliances and loyalties of the palace would be tested and displayed. Marcus and Leora were invited to participate, and many nobles watched with curiosity, wondering what would happen. Marcus walked through the corridors, Leora's small hand in his. The child's face was bright with excitement and a touch of nervousness. She had never been in such a large gathering before, and the grandeur of the palace ceremony was overwhelming. Marcus spoke softly. "Stay close to me. Remember, we are together. Nothing will harm you." Leora nodded, squeezing his hand. "I trust you," she said simply. The main hall was larger than any Marcus had seen. Towers of glowing crystal rose from the floor, and floating platforms held music and lights. The queen sat on her throne at the far end, her posture regal and commanding. The courtiers took their places, watching Marcus and the child carefully. Whispers ran through the room. Some were fearful, others impressed. But all eyes were on the human and the queen's child. "Today we witness a moment of unity," the queen announced. "We test trust, courage, and intelligence. Let all present understand the strength of character, no matter the species." Marcus and Leora stepped forward together. The queen had prepared a series of challenges, small tests of observation, problem-solving, and courage. The first task was simple: retrieve a floating orb from a high pedestal without disturbing any other objects. The orb glowed softly, suspended by invisible energy, while other platforms shifted gently around it. Marcus studied the situation carefully. He whispered to Leora, "We can do this together. Watch my movements and follow." Leora nodded, her eyes wide with concentration. Marcus moved carefully, his hand steady. He guided the child, keeping her safe and balanced as they reached the orb. Courtiers gasped softly. Few had expected the human and child to work together so smoothly. When they retrieved the orb without incident, Marcus handed it to Leora, who held it triumphantly. The queen's lips curved slightly in approval. "Very good," she said. "Your coordination is excellent. You demonstrate patience and understanding." The next challenge tested perception. Small, subtle illusions appeared in the hall, designed to confuse the participants. Some courtiers had already failed this task in practice runs. Marcus crouched beside Leora, explaining in simple words, "Focus on what is real, not what seems real. Look carefully." Leora nodded and studied the illusions, her eyes flicking quickly between the shapes. Together, she and Marcus navigated the challenge, identifying the real objects and avoiding the traps. The audience watched in stunned silence, whispering among themselves. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but Marcus's calm and cleverness had guided the child perfectly. Then came the final task, a test of courage. A small mechanical creature, designed to startle, was released toward Leora. The palace expected the child to panic, but Marcus stepped in immediately. He moved in front of Leora, speaking calmly. "It cannot hurt you. Stay behind me. Trust me." The child pressed close, hiding partially behind him. Marcus guided Leora to step lightly and confidently, showing no fear. The mechanical creature approached, then retreated when it realized no one was afraid. Leora's small hand remained in Marcus's grip, her trust evident to everyone in the hall. The queen watched with deep interest. Marcus had protected her child, guided her through challenges, and demonstrated courage and intelligence that few could match. She realized that humans were more than she had ever imagined. Their strength was not in their bodies, but in their minds, their patience, and their hearts. When the ceremony ended, the queen rose from her throne. "Today we have witnessed something remarkable," she said. "A human, once an outsider, has proven loyalty, courage, and wisdom. The child of this palace has shown trust, and together they have demonstrated what it means to face challenges with intelligence and care." The courtiers were stunned. Some applauded cautiously, while others nodded in reluctant admiration. Marcus and Leora stood together, a small but powerful symbol of trust and cooperation. Later, the queen invited Marcus to her chambers privately. Leora followed, skipping ahead excitedly. The queen motioned for them to sit. "Human," she said, her tone calm but warm, "you have earned my respect and the trust of my child. Few outsiders could accomplish what you have done. You have shown patience, courage, and wisdom that our palace rarely sees." Marcus bowed respectfully. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I only did what I believed was right." The Queen smiled faintly. "Perhaps humans are not as different as we thought. Perhaps there is much we can learn from one another." Leora leaned against Marcus, looking up at the Queen. "I like him, Mother. He is brave and kind. I trust him." The Queen's gaze softened. The child's words were honest and unfiltered. She realized that Marcus's presence had brought something unique into the palace, a connection based on trust, respect, and understanding. In the days that followed, the palace slowly adjusted to the new dynamic. Courtiers who had once doubted Marcus began to acknowledge his qualities. Some advisors even sought his advice on small matters, recognizing his cleverness and calm judgment. The Queen herself began to consult with him more often, curious about Earth and human ways. Marcus, meanwhile, continued to focus on Leora. He taught her simple concepts from Earth, showed her images of distant planets, and shared stories of human courage and innovation. The child's curiosity blossomed and her confidence grew. She laughed more freely, explored more boldly, and began to understand the value of trust and friendship in ways few children of her age could. One evening, as the twin suns set over the palace towers, Marcus and Leora stood on a balcony overlooking the city. The colors of the sky reflected in the crystal structures, creating a breathtaking spectacle. "Do you think humans and aliens can be friends?" Leora asked quietly. Marcus smiled. "I believe we can. We already are in our own way. Trust is the first step to friendship." Leora looked up at him and smiled. "I trust you always," Marcus nodded. "And I trust you." The Queen appeared behind them, her presence quiet but commanding. She observed the pair for a moment, then spoke. "You have done more than earn trust, human. You have shown that courage, wisdom, and kindness can bridge even the widest differences. For that I thank you." Marcus bowed again. "It is an honor, Your Majesty." The Queen's expression softened further. "Perhaps in time humans and our people can learn much from one another. Today, you have proven that a bond of trust and respect can change more than just a single heart. It can influence the future of a kingdom." The palace, once filled with whispers of doubt, now held a quiet sense of hope. Marcus had arrived as an outsider, a visitor from a distant world. But through patience, courage, and kindness, he had earned the trust of a child, the respect of a queen, and the admiration of a kingdom. As the stars appeared in the alien sky, Marcus realized that his journey had taken him far beyond a diplomatic mission. He had formed a bond that transcended worlds, one built on trust, courage, and understanding. And Leora, the Queen's child, had discovered that humans could be more than strangers. They could be protectors, friends, and allies. The palace slowly returned to its normal rhythm, but the presence of the human had left an indelible mark. Courtiers spoke more openly of cooperation, trust, and understanding. The Queen, watching from her chambers, felt a rare sense of optimism. She had witnessed something remarkable. A human, through calmness, courage, and empathy, had shown the potential of unity across species. And in the center of it all, Leora held Marcus's hand tightly, her trust unwavering. Together they had faced challenges, earned respect, and shown that even the most unlikely friendships could change the course of history. The palace, once shocked by a child hiding behind a human, now celebrated the strength of that trust. It was a reminder that courage, patience, and understanding were not limited to one species. The future of the kingdom, and perhaps of interstellar relations, had been reshaped in a single day by the actions of a human and a small alien child. As the night deepened, the Queen looked down from her balcony. She smiled faintly, her thoughts filled with possibilities. Perhaps this human was only the beginning. Perhaps the galaxy would one day see the true value of humans, not for their strength, but for their heart, their mind, and their courage. And Leora, the child who had once hidden behind a stranger, now stood confidently beside him, a symbol of trust, hope, and the power of unlikely friendship. The palace was no longer the same. The whispers of doubt had been replaced with awe and admiration. And in the quiet moments, Marcus and Leora knew one thing for certain. Together they had changed everything.